Welcome back to the Hellenic Hour. The participation of the Australian Armed Forces in the Battle of Crete of May 1941 is one of the most important events in the shared history of Australia and Greece. Australian soldiers fought alongside Greek, New Zealand, British troops and armed civilians of Crete to prevent the Nazi invasion and shared values of democracy and freedom. Stories of bravery and the self-sacrifice of Cretans sheltering Allied soldiers at great personal danger have been passed down from generation to generation, laying the foundation for a long-standing friendship between Australia and Greece. And now I welcome the President of the Pan-Cretan Association of Melbourne, John Nikolakakis. John, welcome to the Hellenic Hour.
Hello, how are you? And thank you for having me on board.
Fantastic, and of course very touching a little passage there that says quite a lot about the heart, the soul, and of course what the Cretans and what Greece went through. And I'd like, firstly like to welcome you and thank you very much for taking the time as well to talking to us. But of course last week we saw the Battle of Crete, the 72nd commemoration of the Battle of Crete, and of course the World War II that certainly touched and created so many emotional moments the last week, especially throughout Melbourne. Can you please talk to us about what happened as far as the commemoration?
Well, this year we celebrated the 72nd anniversary of the Battle of Crete, a battle where thousands of Anzacs happened to be in Crete, sheltering in Crete, when unfortunately the German superpower invaded our island on the 20th of May in 1941.
Yes.
The truth be said, that there was many thousands of Australians in Greece before many thousands of Greeks came to Australia. So the Aussies went there in masses first, unfortunately for the wrong reasons, because of the wartime. Many lost their lives. Many lost their lives as heroes trying to defend our island and trying to defend the country. And it's with great honour that we respect them, with great honour that we remember them every year in May, as we did 22 years ago for the 50th anniversary, and every year since then there is big celebrations in Crete, in Chania, in Rethino, in Iraklio, and of course every year in Australia where we celebrate it late May in Melbourne. And the celebrations are not only in Melbourne, the celebrations are national, with the representatives of the armed forces that come every year. And with the musical program that's also present with the musicians that we bring over for these celebrations.
Well, that sounds fantastic, and look, I've been involved now for many years here with our community, and it certainly is a tremendous week of celebrations, as you mentioned, and I had the pleasure of, obviously catching up with you on the Monday, that absolutely fantastic event that took place at the Consul General, the official room of the consulate here in Melbourne, where many diggers were honoured and presented with medals, and it was such a touching function. We saw veterans. We saw a lady who came, a daughter of a veteran who obviously has passed away, and she came all the way from Perth, which was a very touching moment. We saw so many members of our Greek community and, of course, state members of Parliament that were certainly there in remembering the great sacrifices that Australians and Greeks, of course, went through in those years. Can you just tell us what events took place over the week? I can see in our newspaper now, in our double-page spread, we see that there was a commemoration at the shrine as well. Please go through all the events that took place over the last week.
The celebration started on Saturday night, where we had the formal dance.
Yes.
This year was the Cretan Brotherhood's turn to host the night, which was at Nicholson Street in Brunswick.
Correct, and that was a great success from what I hear.
Great success, full house.
Full house.
There was veterans there, there was dignitaries there, the representatives from the Hellenic Armed Forces, government representatives and local and federal government representatives there. That function was held on Saturday night. Sunday morning we had the ceremony at the Greek Orthodox Church in Agios Statios in South Melbourne, and straight after that we had the wreath-laying ceremony at the Shrine of Remembrance, where we had many, many people there, not only veterans and Cretans, but also students from many schools that were also there. And then I think the highlight of all the event was the event on Monday at the Consul General's office in Melbourne, where again our Consul General honoured us as she does the last 3 years that she's been here, and she, Mrs. Liamidou, has been a very proud supporter of the Greeks and Cretans in Melbourne, and she honoured the veterans as she has for the last 3 years, the veterans that fought in the Battle of Greece and Crete, in a celebration that is obviously talked about by the whole community and also nationally by her efforts.
John, what stood out for me, which was on Monday night, that there was one common message, and it's been said so many times, but it was brought home by the veterans, where they said that the Greeks and the Cretans, they said if it wasn't for the Cretans, one person in particular, if you remember, said that if it wasn't for the hospitality, for the Cretans looking after us, I wouldn't be here today, because they sheltered the Australians and they looked after them with food when food was so scarce. And, of course, they hid them from the Germans. And these stories are so touching. And, wow, you know, we can only be proud of what our ancestors have done for the good of democracy, for the good of peace during some very, very trying times.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's the Cretan philoxenia, and everyone talks about the Cretan philoxenia. You would have heard the veterans, as they awarded their medals on Monday, they said, you know, that it was, as you said, Ross, it wasn't for the Cretans that fed them, and sometimes they fed them before they fed their own families.
Exactly.
Their own children, because they felt so obliged to these people that were there trying to defend the island. And that respect has continued for the last 72 odd years, will continue, and the veterans that are healthy enough to travel to Crete every year for the celebration see it then face to face,
first hand,
and are reminded by what happened 72 years ago.
Well, I certainly can vouch for that myself personally. I had the pleasure of being in Crete a couple of years ago, and can I say the people are absolutely fantastic, so proud and so hospitable, and you should obviously be very, very proud of your heritage, like I am as well. We certainly are. And John, look, it's been great. Thank you so much for talking to us and to the whole Cretan community. You should all be very, very proud. The events were certainly very successful over the weekend. I obviously look forward to speaking to you in the future on the Hellenic Hour in English. Of course, the show here is geared for the second and third and fourth generation Greek Australians who don't understand the Greek language that well. And again, I thank you for your time and look forward to speaking to you in the near future.
Thank you as well, and a big thank you to all the organisers and all the people that contributed to last week's event happening. We should be all very proud.
Thank you, John. Nase kala. Take care.
Yes.
And that was John Nikolakakis, the president of the Pan-Cretan Association of Melbourne, and we thank him so much for his time. We'll be back shortly.